And we're off. It's Bob Rivers along with Zip Zip Fell. I'm in Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada. Zip is in Boston, Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. And Ed is in Detroit, Motor City. A specific neighborhood, Ed?
Yeah, downtown,
Downtown.
That's how we do.
Downtown. Dave is joining us reluctantly for a few minutes. He always likes to be behind the scenes. David Lee is our poobah of IT and engineering and makes all the behind the scenes stuff possible. Let's all say thanks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And let's play the jingle to get the show on the road.
They say that a lie can't go halfway around the world before
The truth gets his pants on.
the Bob and Zip Show with Ed Kelly.
Yeah. All right. I dig it every time. Okay. So tonight, despite my best efforts, we didn't land a guest for tonight. So I thought what we might do is take the behind the scenes of doing the podcast and bring it to the forefront and tell you sort of the stuff we've been talking about and what we're doing. The first time I started podcasting with Zip and Ed, it was 2019, and it was Thanksgiving. Do you know how to remember that?
How do you remember that? You have an exceptional memory.
No.
You wouldn't say.
You were thankful that you pulled it off. I don't know.
It was just before the pandemic, and it was the last vacation our family had ever taken. And we were in Palm Springs in a little rental house having a big Thanksgiving dinner. And for some reason, because I'm terrible at organization, scheduling, anything that has, a column and a decimal point,
I share the same melody.
any list that needs to be remembered, whatever it is, this is basically a cross between foosball and pinball in here. So the reason I remember is because I was excited to do this with you, and we did a few rehearsals, and I brought my laptop with me on vacation.
Right.
Setting it up in some weird room that was a little bit echoey, and then the next thing we knew, all hell broke loose. After we did a few trial episodes, and COVID hit.
Ah, that's right.
Which was fantastic for launching something you do all alone indoors.
Do you think there's going to be a baby boom that's like a COVID baby boom because everybody was indoors?
I know without even looking, there are stats on that.
Are there?
Yeah, there must be.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a diabetes boom.
You're such an ass.
Well, I've read about that one. People gained weight and got unhealthy. People thought, and by the way, at the same time as the diabetes boom is the treadmill boom.
Yeah.
What was that treadmill that everybody bought?
Yeah, the Peloton.
Yeah, the Peloton stock went through the roof because they're eating so much homemade bread and ice cream, it's going to go crazy.
I made the sourdough.
And forever changed the business model of America.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, it really did. I think it was going to go that way anyway, but I think it hastened the trajectory, to be sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you leave the house for anything anymore? Anybody?
Do I read the what?
Leave the house for anything anymore?
DoorDash. Like I needed pool test trips to test the water in our pool.
pH.
And Lisa said, "Well, go to Walmart and get them." And I looked them up, and they were $22. And then I went to
Amazon, and they were $8.
I went to Bezosmart.
Bezosmart.
And they were, $12, and I could get 2 for the same price. So I ordered them.
Yeah.
And then I got them in yesterday, and they looked a little cheap. So, there's always, you always got to figure out what you're doing. So as the story goes, for those that don't know, Zip and I were partners on the radio from about 1981 to 1987.
Wow.
On a very big radio station, WAAF, which became a huge Boston rock station and was legendary up until last year when it was purchased by, what's the name of that organization, Zip?
It's a Christian radio group.
It's a gospel consortium of some kind, yeah.
But they're the big one. I mean, they're the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost of Christian radio.
Yeah, they are the iHeart of the
Yeah,
Christian.
they are.
The
I
iHeart.
agree.
I'm ordained, by the way. Maybe they'll hire me now.
I saw
Yeah,
you got
we need to
your-
get the details on that. I believe.
I saw you got your certificate of being a minister.
Yes.
And I got one of those too. Not a lot of theology went into it.
I didn't go to Bible college, no.
Yeah.
But I was already somewhat versed in the Gospels.
Sure. And you're marrying some friends?
No, Buddy's daughter asked if I would perform her service, and I said under one condition: you don't compensate me. So,
Well, it makes you a very odd religion.
I know.
I'll never make it. Religions don't work that way. All right. So we put this together, and throughout all of this time, David Lee has been behind the scenes helping us. When we got to the point, well, 2019 means we've been doing it for 3.5 years.
It doesn't.
Do you know what number this is?
No.
This would be two. Oh no, two.
This portion of the
236, I
show
believe. 236.
Brought to you by
I believe.
Prevagen. Prevagen. You see it every night on TV.
Which
You see
doesn't
really
work.
really smart people who say they can remember stuff they didn't used to remember. By the way, if you Google it, it's all bullshit.
It is.
And there are no research, there are no studies, and the FDA says waste your money if you want. They're gelatin capsules or whatever they are.
This is 216.
Thank you, Dave. I was stalling so you would be able to look that up.
Yeah.
So this is the 216th podcast. When we first began this podcast, I was also doing something with Bob, Spike, and Joe, which is, by the way, difficult. People wonder why I don't do that all the time. A couple of reasons. One is, Joe works 100 hours a week.
Crazy. Dedicated.
And Spike works more than he ever worked for me. I'll tell you that. Glad he's not here yet. He is going to join us this evening. And so and Ed and Zip are still in the midst of their careers. Zip may be winding down. He has that look. He watches Jeopardy every night.
He has that look.
You've had enough,
Is
right?
that look?
Vacant stare.
Vacant stare. Best got the glow of the TV light in front of it.
Sounds like a morning show. Hey, it's bacon and stare in the morning. Guess what?
Yeah. So anyway, and really, so when I set this up, I had really only one goal, but I always have an agenda.
Yes, you do.
So it's goals and agendas. The goal was really to see and interact with my dear friends who didn't do the 25-year radio journey with me in Seattle, who were always the people I would love to work with. Ed Kelly, one of the greatest voice actors in the profession.
Amen.
And Zip Zipfel not only got me started by playing drums on all the Twisted Tunes, but he was kind of
I was able to roll with the punches.
You gotta roll with it, baby.
no, it's more than that. Zip has seriously the kindest heart of really anybody that's ever been in my life. And at that time, when I was starting to do a radio show, what does an egomaniacal protagonist host need but someone who's kind
Counterpoint.
that they can use as a punching bag? I didn't realize it at the time.
The ketchup packets exploding could more.
But Zip has also got this quality of unimpeachable integrity and honesty, which I think back then neither of us had, as we were actively on an alcoholic treadmill, right? And anyway, so I thought, well, let's just have that conversation. And the thing I wanted to do is never turn it into work.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
know.
been, you know what I mean?
Why would you want to do a real job if you could do this?
Well, as it turns out, I kind of do, but I don't want to force child labor. And by child, I mean people brand new to Social Security. And in other words, I didn't feel like I could ask you guys to prepare all week and and line up and have ahead of time discussions. So it's been pretty improv. And a lot of what we've done has been very similar to a morning radio show where we we
Came
vamp
in at
on
5:59.
59 and well, actually I always prepared a little bit, but not so much back in the alcoholic days. You got me. But came in at 5:59 and vamp on the events of the day, the politics, who the internet's making fun of, what gets lots of clicks. That's what it all turned into, which kind of disgusted me and made me want to get out of media, actually, to be honest with you. And so lately we've tried an experiment, longer form conversations with fascinating people. And we came up with the moniker, The Truth Gets Its Pants On.
Yeah. How bad is that?
And you all know where that comes from, right? Dave, you know where that comes from.
Expression.
Truth gets its pants on.
No,
Oh.
maybe I did, but
Well, it's been quoted in TV shows, which is how I learn most of my Eastern philosophy and Greek mythology. No, seriously. Ed, you know this because you're
Star Trek.
you know the union people who are on strike. Writers
Yeah.
are some of the most brilliant and psychologically learned people out there, and literally they're doing these character development television stuff, and they got to write stuff for these characters, and every once in a while they say something wise. It's usually a famous quote. So I looked that quote up a while ago. A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on. Any guesses? Who said it?
Aristotle.
I would go that far back. I would. But no, it was Winston Churchill,
Churchill.
according to brainyquotes.com.
I was just going to guess that.
You were?
A
was,
lie goes round the world.
You must have told me at one time.
I think you might. Look, that quote's been around a while. And never has it been more relevant
Expression.
than every single day the humans have been on the earth. I don't think it's just today. I really don't. It's because drama, misinformation, and sometimes not misinformation, it's pretending we know, thinking we know. If it's exciting to tell somebody, especially if it puts someone else down, makes us feel superior, it spreads like wildfire. If there's a nuanced truth involved, well, it takes days to report. It takes a team of reporters to report on that truth, right?
Yes. As the companies are cutting back on salaries and staffs.
And what do those reporters, now there's only 2 of them left, what do they do in the morning when they get out of bed?
The sin of omission.
Come on, Zip.
Call each other.
All right, this is Prevagen time again. They put their pants on.
Oh, wait a minute. There's a parody for it.
Prevagen time again.
Yeah. I hate that stuff, so I don't want to give it any... I mean, I hate the idea that stuff like that could take a lot of people's money, and it's just snake oil. But again, snake oil, also nothing new.
Yeah.
So...
sometimes if the doctor recommends a supplement, it is legit. Sometimes.
Give me an example.
My sister, when her iron is low, he will tell her to take an iron supplement.
Yes.
If she's vitamin D deficient, he will say take I don't know if vitamins are considered supplements, but
right. But he has something cable news doesn't have. Actual data.
Yeah.
Yeah, a blood test. Which I had a bunch of those today. They took so many vials out of me. I'm wondering what they're thinking of replacing.
So many jokes.
Yeah.
So little time.
So I'll get to the point. The discussion involved, well, it was me discussing it with myself because I was blindsided you guys.
Right.
But
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. Oh, Magoo.
Hence the vacant stare.
You've done it.
Well, I thought about it, and I thought we've got a nice little rapport going. We've got a little thing, but us talking about the news is not going to cut through the clutter because, first off, there's much higher paid people with degrees and staffs preparing them with talking points and, and by the way, I think all that stuff is a waste of time. So when I added all up together, I said, should I quit podcasting? And then I thought, but what will Ed and Spike do? And Zip? And
I'm
Dave,
Ed
Whoa.
Couple, and here's the news.
yes. And then I thought, maybe you've trapped those guys because of your cancer and your sickness, and they're stuck doing this thing. Well, we were thinking he'd be dead by now, but we'll hang out with Bob as long as he's here. I mean, seriously, that's actually a real thought I had.
I thought the ankle bracelet was a nice touch.
Thank you.
I ain't going anywhere. I got an ankle bracelet on.
I'm waiting. So anyway, the half-baked idea was, what if we made these evergreen, not topical, not about, DeSantis' stupid launch on Twitter, which nobody cares about and won't even hurt him. Not about, God, I saw a fake news story the other day. I'm going to save it. I'm going to do it on Spike and Jack's show tomorrow. I pop on there on Fridays. I guess if I do it on here, no one will hear it. Spike is going to join us, by the way, and I love popping in on their show every week. It's just a thrill. It's a blast. 2:00 on Fridays. So this week, and you guys may know some of these people, there's some East Coast radio consultants that we worked with over the years. A guy named John Paracol, John Sinton, and a few other, and those are the two I know really well enough to mention their names.
Paracol had a
without-
column, did he not?
What's that?
Didn't Paracol have a column in Radio and Records?
Yeah, he did. He wrote guest call. Yeah, they were at the highest level of media in the sense they were considered some of the biggest brains.
Yeah,
and they are still today. And I got to meet with them in Nashville a couple of months ago, and just have a guys retreat, which was great. I mean, there was nothing too far out that happened.
it's Nashville. How far out
Yeah.
can it be?
No, when 60 to 80-year-olds rent a house, it's not even the TV gets loud. But it was great. And anyway, one of them, John Sinton, is the fellow who put together Air America.
Oh.
And someone I would love to have on as a guest.
That would be cool.
But I'm waiting till we get up to speed. Like before I get really smart people on, I want some average everyday guests. The people I know, like Zip, who will be supportive and kind.
Grist for the mill.
Yes. But we've done a few of those. We did the Kathy Faulkner interview, which I think is maybe the best podcast we've ever done. The story of the 90s. Yeah. And then with you guys last week, we did the Chuck Opperman story, which
guest.
people are still raving about. His honest, heartfelt telling of the story of being suicidal and then his recovery and massive success in the software world.
I was going to say, and following large S recovered.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got a whole bunch of guests lined up, and it's funny. I know I'm rude when it's only 2 days before a podcast, because you want to say, when are you free? Well, we got an opening in August.
You're also going into the vacation season, so you're doubly
that's
challenged.
true.
You want to make them feel special. So a couple of them coming up are both friends and really amazing people. One of them is an author, and he hasn't booked yet, but I've been told I can get him. Am I jumping the gun?
Oh.
Okay. I teased Dave with this. I just read a book that has literally changed my life in a way a book hasn't done in many years.
A new book or an old book?
Well, Amazon dropped it off at my house.
Okay.
New to you.
I don't know the year. Hang on. It's not terribly old. And I sort of got it by accident.
Does it have a Dewey Decimal System number?
It probably does. Yes,
So
it
the
certainly does.
Older folks in the audience?
First printing 2002. So it's a 21-year-old book. And the author knows a friend of mine, and he said, oh, yeah, he'd come on your podcast.
Yeah, print people are pretty, they're more accessible than, movie and TV people.
As in lonely.
No, it's an
No,
underappreciated.
and by the way, to me, someone who can write a book is like a god.
oh, dude, I work with one every week.
Big time. Big
Mitch
time.
Album, yeah,
One of the biggest in the world.
And I've hinted, but he obviously wouldn't come on our podcast.
Oh, he would come on. Yeah,
He wouldn't.
I think he would. When he's not promoting a book, when he's on tour, forget it.
Okay,
You know.
'cause he's busy.
Yeah,
And he
on
also
tour.
does an afternoon radio show 5 days a week.
And has 9 charities in Detroit as well, and an orphanage in Haiti. I don't know what this guy's made
Okay.
of.
I'm
And
poor
an
now. I'm
outstanding
poor now.
jazz
Is he
pianist,
rich?
correct?
Is he?
Is he rich? He is rich, right?
I don't think there are any tag sales or garage sales.
Yeah, that applies to me and Lisa, but I'm talking about really rich. Is he rich?
I don't ask you about his bottom.
Don't you want to have him on the show, Ed?
All
No.
right. No. Seriously, I have this little prurient nature. What does he drive? Like,
What
is
does
it-
he drive? He doesn't drive, actually. Because he,
No,
he does drive, but he's a terrible driver. I've been with him. He's a terrible driver.
I'm a terrible driver too.
But he mostly is on his computer in the back seat because he just writes.
He's hugely successful and working all the time.
Well, and he's a columnist. He's a broadcaster. He's
Yeah.
a philanthropist.
Does he
They're
still
just-
write for the Free Press still?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh
and
my
for those of
God.
you who maybe need a little bit more background, Mitch Albom wrote the book Tuesdays with Maury. Who here has seen that or read it? I read it. Dave?
I haven't.
Okay, Tuesdays with Maury started his writing career?
No. He had. I read.
He'd already written.
Fab
Yeah.
Five. He was a sports writer primarily, though, and a columnist. in
It was
Detroit.
about him sitting with someone in hospice who was dying, basically,
a
right?
former college professor. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant book. To this day, they have it on the bookshelf at every hospice. So, yeah, it would be great to speak with him. The book I'm referring to is called The War of Art.
I've heard of this book.
There is another book called
Art of
The
War.
Art of War.
Yeah.
And I always like the parody better than the original.
Yeah.
Kidding. The Art of War.
Inside joke.
Yes. The Art of War is a Chinese classic written by Sun Tzu in not 2002. Let me see. When was it? It's like hundreds of years ago, like ages before our time. It's
Updated for the new millennium.
reprinted for me, though, in China by people working for 5 cents an hour in 2023. Anyway, this is considered a literary classic. And I've read the first few pages.
Mhm.
It is about war, and it is about how to win a war and exactly how human emotions play out in war. This book, The War of Art, is about the war that goes on in our own heads between the life we're living and the life we wish we could live.
There's a gap there between what I want to live and what
Yes.
I'm actually living.
So we're going to speak to the author. I'm willing it to happen, so it's going to happen. That's part of what's in the book.
Pulling it from the universe.
Yeah, but I want to tell you a little bit because I think it lends itself to our discussion about the truth gets its pants on, and how we do this conversation now that we've had 3.5 years of practicing doing old morning radio style stuff. To get more intellectually into it, there is every day, every decision you make, there are things that you wish you could do. And then there are the things you actually do. And some of them overlap. Like Zip, you became a drummer.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
That started as a wish, right? Who did you see that you looked up and you went, oh,
Let me guess. Ringo.
Well, yes,
No?
yes and no. It was actually a neighbor's father had a
Really?
drum kit in his basement. He was a jazz guy. And I just, it's that moment. It just stuck.
Yeah,
and
and
then later on, I've got many drummers I
so when you had
idolize.
that thought, I want to do this. How old are you?
Maybe 9, 8.
There's no polygraph, so just pick a number. Roughly, it's show business.
Maybe 8.
That's amazing. 8 or 9. I was
Yeah.
6 when I knew I wanted to do radio. And by the way, that's rare. David was doing a different career and got into IT. You were at Boeing, right? Can we say that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many years.
So,
Airplane. Wow, fun.
in
Can I
order
just
to do,
clarify one thing? I also wanted to be a play-by-play sports announcer at the same age. I used to sit in a closet and rebroadcast the Red Sox games. I would listen to Kurt Gowdy and replicate the games. The same age.
and now you are an announcer and a drummer, and you'll do either of those things for $50 and drive 10 hours to get there.
And he's
right?
out of the closet. And this is the month.
Yeah. By the way,
I think I'm gonna cry.
when you love doing something.
Sad.
By the way, I same here. I mean, I would have paid to do a weekend show on the radio. It was just I have to do this. It doesn't matter. So anyway, that's your art. But throughout your career and throughout your life, as you want to do something, you will run into this thing called the resistance. And it's usually fear-based, fear of failure, fear of looking bad, procrastination
Fear
is
of
one way.
success sometimes.
What's that?
Also fear of success sometimes.
Oh, total fear of success. I'm
Mhm.
having a huge relapse of that right now, actually. You know a little bit about it. It's scaring the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Because if you take a risk, you will, something will happen. It'll either work, be somewhere in the middle, or you'll be ridiculed and you'll be embarrassed and you'll crawl back into your hole. Speaking of the hole, let's bring Spike on right now. He's just joining us.
Speaking of hole, and since it's June, hi everybody.
Yeah.
You come in the podcast through the back door here.
Oh,
Part of the fear of failure or a fear of success, Ed,
yeah.
is that you always, when you don't try something, you always have the security that you could have done this.
Yeah.
If only you'd efforted, you could have been this.
Yeah.
And when you try, if it doesn't work, that security blanket of I always could have is gone.
Mhm.
And that's currency people spend. And that's one of the main contributing factors of fear of failure. Or
Have you read The War of Art?
I have read The Art of War.
No, The
Is,
War of...
is that a different book, The War of Art?
Yes, just
Is
like
that Art Linkletter's bio? What is
just
that?
like We Buy the Tampons is a different song than Queen's We Are the Champions.
Yeah.
Is The War of Art a parody of the?
No, it's not. It's actually I started the show and we're talking with these guys about how we're sort of changing the nature of this podcast. And I'm going to warn you.
We can cuss now. I'm sorry.
Once a Beavis, always a Beavis. So
Also, I found a cap that's got a bull ripping a china shop to hell,
perfect for
and
you.
that's what I
you.
went for Father's Day. Anybody watches it?
no, the nature of the podcast now is I want to make evergreen long discussions and interviews, and I don't want to do any more topical stuff. I do not give
Cool.
a shit what DeSantis did today, and part of it is because he's really boring and annoying.
You just joined 81% of America too, by the way. Yeah,
Is that right?
don't give a shit about what DeSantis did today.
God,
Yeah.
he's going topical on me now. I know.
You started it with the numbers.
So anyway, The War of Art. Steve Stockman, our friend, knows the author a little bit. Steve has also written a book called How to Make Video That Doesn't Suck, and we'll have to have him on where we're in the friend
Oh,
interview mode. And Spike, to bring up to speed, what we've done the last couple of weeks is we interviewed Chuck Opperman for 90 minutes.
I saw it.
It was a gripping tale.
It was wonderful podcast.
Yes. And we interviewed Kathy Faulkner with you, and also a gripping tale. And those seem to live on longer. And when you have the diagnosis I have, making things that live on longer,
Oh,
not a bad deal.
I hear you, man. Well, because the news cycle is nonstop, and nothing lasts in it because it's being replaced constantly.
Constantly.
When you can talk about our lives and the things that matter in our lives, those are the things that have a sense of permanence.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
So I want you guys to know, and I kept him on here tonight for a reason, because he doesn't feel like he's a performer at all, and he always says, "Take me off the screen."
I'm not.
But the reason we're here is David Lee, and David all the time throughout this whole podcast has been whispering ideas in my ear and trying to get me to go this way or that way. He really would like it to make a little bit of money, because his wife is probably pissed that he's been doing this for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Nancy is sweet. Is she pissed? She's not pissed. She knows you're having fun.
No, she knows what's going on.
Okay.
Well, you're growing weed to supplement, right? Is that what I said behind that?
That's what it's behind him. Yeah.
It looks like
Yeah,
Yep.
Those
doing
are
great,
huge.
man. This guy, yeah.
Hey man, you want me to come and top some of those out for you?
Oh man, even me, man. They're just in the flower, man. You gotta let them go.
So the War of Art, that's a guest we have coming up. The author, Stephen Pressfield, the premise in his book is basically this, that if you give that thing that keeps you from doing what you want to do a name, and then become routine for you to identify what is happening, then great things can happen. So the name they give it in the book is The Resistance. So like anything you want to do, the resistance, like even if it's like, I'm not going to have that Haagen-Dazs bar in there. The resistance says, oh, yes, you are. But when it comes to art, the resistance will prevent you from taking a chance. So like with the podcast, I thought, I'm going to make this jingle. Truth Gets Its Pants On. We're going to switch it to interviews, and I'm going to really try hard. And then guess what? Spike, you absolutely nailed this. The first thought that came in my head is, you'll be a miserable failure, and everybody will see that you can't get any numbers.
Has been.
And then I
Never
thought,
was.
yes. So the premise of this book, which I'm not going to do a whole book report tonight, though, it's spiritual, and it's why it's kind of changed my life a little bit. When you take those risks, when you actually go for it, the universe actually acts in some ways as if it's your guardian angel.
I swear to God, that's. I mean, I don't swear to God, but I mean, I have found that to be true.
Say more. Ed's
Well,
story.
I used to live over there, and I used to look at this skyline as a child, and I say, I don't know how, but I'm going to get over there. Because I was immersed in American media, even though I was in a Canadian city. It was kind of like, off the driven path. It's not true.
Now, what is between Canada and U.S.? Is it barbed wire? Is
No,
it one of those
no,
big fences?
we've taken that down. There may be under the water, but it's the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Yeah.
It's the DMZ. It's the D Maple Zone, right? They cleared out all the.
So you were Canadian from a kid.
Yeah.
Zip knew he wanted to be a drummer and a baseball announcer, and you knew you wanted to eat supersized food and live in the land of
Ed wanted to be American, dude. Don't undersell that. Ed wanted to be an American.
Yeah, and I did not want to get married almost ever, even from a kid. And I thought, how am I going to get over there? That's the only way you can get in.
Oh, anchor babies.
Chain migration.
I never thought of Canadian backpacking anchor babies, but yes. And so, wow. So you knew you wanted to be in the U.S.
And and when you say people move from the universe, I had to almost have my arm twisted to send that demo to Andy Goodman at the American Comedy Network.
Because your dream of being in America would end if he rejected your demo, and you were afraid of losing that. Like Spike was saying?
Kind of, yeah. Spike, I think, was right on the money, because, and it was Renee, my buddy, that kind of twisted my arm. When a month went by and I hadn't heard, I said, see, I was right. Nothing's going to happen. And
Renee was a guy. Renee was a guy.
Renee was a guy. Yeah.
He's Canadian.
Yeah. He's definitely Canadian, him.
Oh, it's a more Canadian. Go ahead, Quebec.
So talk about not wanting to have kids too, because that's really that's unusual. But both you and Zip did not procreate.
Yeah,
David, have I ever asked you? Do you have kids?
You've never asked.
I never asked you.
No, we don't.
David is like this girl I've been banging for 6 years, and she's like, "Do you even know my name?"
For God's sake.
Yeah.
You got how many kids at home?
Actually, 6 years is a long time. It's usually 5 or 6 days.
Your
back
short
in the
notice
day.
analogies have really got to
I
improve.
know that is horrible. But I pulled the trigger, like Johnny Carson would on a bad joke. And if you end up ridiculing me, it's fine. It's fine.
Yes.
So how many kids do you have, Dave?
0. We have 0 kids.
I didn't ask. There wasn't anything to know. All right.
That's right.
By the way, Ed and Zip, you can adopt now. You know, it's Pride Month. You two can still realize your dream. You know,
I'm cool with just practicing.
You know, and I really do enjoy children. I and kids love me and all of it. But it's too weighty a responsibility. Like there's so much going on that is involved. You basically have to give up your own life. And that's the ultimate in selflessness. And I think
you have to put someone else's care and
Way ahead.
well-being
Yes.
above your own with unconditional love, and that's a horrible thing. Explain how horrible that is.
Well, one of my co-hosts is Ken Brown. One of his opening lines when he was a stand-up comic was, "I hate kids." He would just it would go from there. But
not just mine, but all kids. You know,
it's the fear of I would actually lose my sanity should I lose a child. And I've had 2 friends recently that have had to do that. One of my partners buried his own son, and I don't know that I could handle that level of grief with the thin skin that I have.
Can I say something real quick here?
Yeah, but I'm just going to hold up this book. I want you to all read it before he comes on. That's really why I did it.
Sounds interesting. I do want to read it.
I actually,
it's funny, Ed. You said your fear of losing a kid is one of the things that kept you from being a kid. That's the whole fear of loss thing too. Doubling back to what you didn't try. You know, fear. You know, not being a parent because you think you might lose a kid. That's unbelievable.
And I think I would have been an okay parent, but I was a latchkey kid, so I really didn't.
You didn't have the training.
Yeah,
but you would have figured it out.
Maybe.
But you went your path. Is it no children for you?
No,
that we know of.
Let me applaud Ed for the honesty, because I can absolutely, totally relate to everything you just said.
Really?
Same exact deal.
Okay. Fear of commitment, kind of.
Yeah. Yep. And fear of not being able to provide enough or whatever. All those hamster wheel worries.
Because we was broke ass Poe. We had to borrow money from the Waltons, and I don't mean the ones that own Walmart. I mean, good night, Lawn Boy. Good night, Jim Bag. The Waltons.
Say Lawn Boy and Jim Bag. Those are the kids you remember.
Something like that.
So with no kids, I'm very curious about it because I mean I have them, and I can confirm all the things you didn't like about them. I mean, all of a sudden your life is second. You know, and when you realize it, if you're a dumb guy like me, it's like right when they get home from the hospital. Not until then. And then you go, oh my, will I feed the baby at 3 and 6? Why? Sure. How long could this possibly go on? And, you know, and then how long will I be responsible for this thing for like longer than almost I've lived so far? It's
And you and your wife have been quite a unit. I mean, she has literally kept you on the tracks. You attempted to leave many a time.
Talking to you, Bob.
I know. The truth is
waiting for somebody else to jump in front of a bullet for you there. We're not coming, buddy.
Actually, the truth is looking for its socks before it can put its pants on.
He just de-pantsed you.
I mean, Lisa and I are a very unique couple in many ways. We both were brought up with anger in the household and you know, some basic anger dysfunction. And so when we met each other, the minister who interviewed us before marrying us had us fill out a questionnaire. And when he got the questionnaire back, I went to see him, and it was like, he had this look on his face like, yeah, so, usually,
Can I keep this to show other couples?
Yes.
Would you guys be okay with that?
It was. I still remember this. He was like, usually in a couple, one is the alpha, and the other one, gives in once in a while. Looking at what you guys have filled out here, I don't see it. It was just like,
Doomed for failure, you two.
it sort of sounded like he was saying, "There's no way this will work," and I recall at that moment, because I felt I'm alpha, but I'm alpha, with quite a few weak spots in the shield too. And I remember thinking at that point, shit, it's gonna have to be me. I have to give in.
It's gotta be me.
And it's quite possible, Zip, that what you just said, it literally saved my life. That Lisa was able to corral me a little bit, and that it may have made that much of a difference. So yeah, it's true. But then we've spent how long have we been married? Gosh, 42 years, 41 years. We've spent this 41 years trying to negotiate a truce every single day.
And you've achieved détente.
Well, and so I
Still trying to finalize the prenup.
Yeah. I still think back at that minister and was like, he was very wise. He knew this would be difficult. And if
Hey,
you
Bob,
believe,
wait.
Yeah.
Lisa didn't keep you on the tracks. Bob tried to rob his own train. Bob's the engineer. Bob tied himself to the tracks and then decided to stop the fucking train. I mean, that woman has saved your ass, my friend.
I remember, Spike, do you remember being and I want to say it was Atlanta, but I'm not sure. But you were in a kilt, and I said, so how
that sounds like Nashville. Were you wearing a kilt at that time we went to
akin to-
Nashville for the radio convention?
No.
Nashville, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas,
one of them. Might have been
New
both.
Orleans, many times. But
So many we went to, and you guys were always there, and I was always there. I said, so how's it going with Bob? Oh, yeah, it's back on the blow again. I'm going, what? I had no idea. He was just, Spike would just spill,
Yeah,
I was,
it
of
is
course,
what it is.
kidding.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Hey, can I give my take on parenting and marriage? Unless somebody else have more to say about their stuff. I've been sitting on this. Since
If you notice, by the way, when you don't talk about current events with sharpening your knives with talking points, the conversation breathes better. It's okay to have a moment of dead air without someone throwing in a Nancy Pelosi taunt.
Yeah. I've moved on to work on Paul Pelosi. He's a much softer target with the skull and everything.
Sorry, I don't mean anything by it because I know you still sort of have to do something.
Yeah, I got to do that daily.
I'm ashamed for laughing at that now.
So being a parent, right? That's something I never thought about my whole life. Never. And I became a parent through marriage. I married a woman, a single mom. And it's funny, man. What did you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a superhero. And this sounds cliche and sappy as shit, but being a parent affords you the opportunity to be a superhero time and time again. And I genuinely mean that. And when you don't have enough faith,
but wait a minute, doesn't that go away at age 13?
Oh God, no. Oh God, no. When my oldest was living in New York and the boy she was dating punched her in the face and the cops were called, I was pulling up and parking long term at the airport by the time Melissa talked me out of getting on the plane.
And by the way,
go and bury this kid.
When you said that, when you started to say that, I pictured that. Remember that classic Superman where he would be hanging from ropes in the sky with the clouds going by, and it'd be I pictured just flying across the country yourself.
When your kid needs something or has a problem they can't find a way out of, and you help them you don't just solve their problem. Too often that's my route, is to just take the easy way and solve the problem. I've learned with my second kid, who we named Mulligan, by the way, that it's much better to teach them how to solve the problem.
She has an Irish name. It's not actually Mulligan is her middle name. Okay.
But seriously,
Did you
man,
miss on the
there's-
first swing?
yeah. Our first kid was a total duff, so we went mulligan on the second one. There is no feeling like having your kid look at you like you're a superhero.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing like it. And the things that I never thought I was up to doing, the faith I didn't have in myself, wasn't a luxury when I became a parent. You had to do what you had to do, because it wasn't about you being successful anymore. It was about you being a parent.
Yeah.
So it took away the fear of fear of failure, fear of accomplishment, fear of anything, fear of self-doubt. All that is eliminated when you become a parent, because it's not a luxury you have anymore.
Wow.
I don't know if this is admitting a weakness, but I do, and the word is not envy, but I do admire the relationships that I see, for example, between Bob and his son, which is very warm, very funny. And I think, did I miss out? Did my fear get in the way of what could have been, the most fulfilling back nine, shall
Back
we
nine of
say?
your life, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd have been a phenomenal parent.
So I have a thought about that. First off, don't ever watch Mr. Eddie's Father or any of those shows.
Oh, I have, yeah.
Andy Griffith.
I cry. I still cry
You do?
at
Okay.
those. Any father-son relationship, because
Yep.
mine was so
All right.
dysfunctional.
Let me
Hey,
tell you
by the
something.
way, Al
Yeah.
Pacino at 83 just knocked up a 29-year-old Ed, so there's still time.
Hooah!
Okay,
And Ed already has someone probably hotter than what Al Pacino saw.
this 29-year-old is that's hooah!
Got some more on here.
You haven't met Lizzie, have you?
No,
You don't know Ed's backstory.
I've heard secondary tales that make me want, yeah, brother.
Yeah. Ed has had a number of relationships. You've confided this in me, and it never pulled the trigger on marriage. And now we know a little bit of the backstory. Why? Fear of loss. But in an amazing relationship now with a woman that we met in Vermont and hung out with for days, and she is. It's just like Summer Masick and Steve Fossen, from Heart. When you see these, January, December. What do they call them? May, September? What do they call it? It depends on how far apart you are, right?
Immoral,
Yeah.
mostly, is what they call it.
Yeah, immoral is what they call it.
They call Stephen Summers is 1961, 1993. Is that the? So I don't know. That's bad joke. They don't all work. They don't all land.
He's older than me, so it's the wrong year. But anyway, when you see that, at first you go, "Oh, he's got a girl. She looks like she's barely out of high school," and of course the guy has both. The reactions come from our DNA, folks. So don't give me shit.
Yeah, stink eyes built in.
One part of the DNA, and our scientist friend John Medina speaks about this in his first book. There's a part of your DNA that whenever you see a person, whenever you see, or even a thing that's new, you say, can I eat it? Will it eat me? Can I have sex with it?
Is this from your marriage counselor questionnaire?
No. This is actually in his book, and I might be misquoting part of it. And then, have I seen it before? Do I recognize it? Because we categorize things.
Yes.
And so when you see someone, with someone of a vastly younger age, it's normal, and you run into this all the time, Ed. People see you together. They probably think she's your daughter, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sometimes
Did you get closer to the microphone. You actually
Yes, it
You
does.
sound sexier.
Thank you. Do you really mean that?
I mean,
More youthful.
who would not love that? Just put a mask over it, and you're all set. Yeah.
That's right.
But anyway, when you see that, you think, because I remember the first time I ever saw Stephen Summer, and that now has to be 15 years ago or so. I mean, she was in her 20s,
Yeah.
maybe 29 or something,
Yeah.
and he was, I'm not going to say. Anyway, but I went.
He was not. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just went, well, and she's pretty, and he's, got some great rock star pictures. No, but anyway, I just thought, why are they together? And and the thing you always think is someone taking advantage of the other person, because that's the thing you think. That's
Everybody.
you have no freaking idea, no clue. And now they're so happily married in the most wonderful. It was clear they were destined for each other.
Yeah.
And you and Lizzie, it feels kind of the same way.
Yeah.
But all right, this is really personal. Does one of you want to get married and the other one is hesitant?
The topic has been broached. Yes.
Did you get her a brooch?
I don't think she's old school.
Okay,
So she would know what a brooch is. She's got an Irish background.
Yeah.
Irish
So
guy.
broached by somebody.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
I have been proposed to many times.
She wants you to do it. That's what I was trying to. And why not?
Yeah. I don't know.
And by the way, again, it's just my DNA talking, but she can have a kid for you.
Yeah,
She'd be more like Mr. Eddie's grandfather, but still, it's okay.
People, let me tell you about my best
friend. He's got a hearing aid and watches Jeopardy every night.
Yeah.
Got a new hip ready to trip. But society has softened though on marriage, right? And don't you think that just
on all
partnerships,
kinds of marriage, yes.
Partnerships. I mean, even the need to be married. Partnerships nowadays have become such the norm and accepted and almost and preferred.
It's the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a sacred institution, though. I would take it very seriously.
All right, this is even more personal, but you don't want to have a kid.
I think that under the right circumstances, if I won the lottery, for example, I would be prepared to adopt. I don't think I would have my own. I think that's
a financial concern.
Well, it is financial, but I also think there are so many unwanted children. I would just take one that didn't have a parent.
That's what our buddy Eric did.
So you'd have a rescue kid, not go to one of those breeders where that's admirable. That's really admirable.
Did have a way with words.
We tried rescue kids, but they always didn't turn out what we wanted, so we went to a breeder.
All right, let's go to Dave now.
You should have got a shock collar.
Dave is also in this boat a little. You and Nancy, or you're not going to do anything about it now, but
no,
and
of course not.
You both have careers. I mean, you're the career power couple.
Well, that was why we just didn't get around to having kids. I mean, I was doing 12/7s at Boeing, and I was just like, well, I'm busy working, and I overtime just nonstop. And Nancy was going to school and pursuing her big career. It just never occurred to us.
Can't you see the size of the grow he's got to tend to, Bob? Come on.
Yeah. This portion of the show brought to you by whatever birth control David and Nancy preferred, because clearly
it's working.
It worked. Actually, all three of you should get an endorsement deal. All right. Anyway, well, that's interesting. By the way, part of this book, part of what makes this so interesting is like so many good things in my life right now. It came from one of my kids. Keith recommended this book to me.
Wow.
And he had read it. It was powerful. And he said, you should read this, Dad. Because I stopped reading self-help books, before 2002.
We know.
Yeah, that's obvious. But he's also the one who recommended to me the podcast I listen to. And Andrew's the one who's turned me on to podcasts and comedians. And so, and I don't know how many parents are like this, but I really need to learn stuff from the younger generation, because even though I'm getting old and I enjoy my old guy, crutches too. Especially in today's hyper, what's the word? Everything's
culture war world.
Well, not even that. No, I'm talking about there are so many channels, so many choices, so many things to know that creaming through, filtering through all the crap to get to the cream of the crop is very difficult. And for some reason, and I think it's their guardian angels, young people are getting inspired, whereas we're still just shaking our fist at the people to get off our lawn. Yeah. Figuratively. There's no one on my lawn. I don't even have a lawn. It's fake grass.
Yeah. I had a young, not family member, but I guess it would be my brother's, my now deceased brother's sister-in-law's son, who has been at every Christmas, every occasion, and posted on my Facebook page when I was ordained and I had myself in my vestments, and he said, the alphabet, Godspeed you against the alphabet wars. And I thought, alphabet wars. So I go over to his site and he's hawking a t-shirt that is anti-LGBTQ plus. That this is what the alphabet were. And I'm like, he's half my age and he's thinking that way. Which I said, you're allowed your opinion. Don't put it on my page. I have a lot of gay friends. I have conservative friends.
Right.
I have friends that don't identify as a gender, with any particular gender. They're non-binary. I said they're very hurt by this sort of thing. The people in my business are sensitive. Don't do that. I'm not going to ban you from my page. You're entitled to your opinion, but not my professional page.
That's very. That's very accepting of you, which is obviously setting a good example. But let's examine for a second. Why does he think that way? Why does he exist?
I think it's anger. I think it's just deep-seated anger, alpha. I believe there might be some hormone injections involved, or some roids, or something. I don't really know.
Okay. I'm gonna offer an alternate theory, and I know this is near and dear to Spike's heart. This and all of us, actually, this topic. And it's not current events. It's always an issue in humanity, in society, for as long as there's recorded history. It's possible that it's genetically in us. It's in our DNA to want to see everything the way it is best for procreation. It's possible that it's part of our survival instincts. And I know, Spike, I'm not saying that as a theory to justify anything.
No. I'm trying to keep an open mind and see that side of things.
It's not even a side. It would explain why each generation grows its own brand new bigots who have to be matured somehow. Because when we're coming up, like when I look back at some of the stuff I used to do and say, so good that there's not Me Too cameras from the, or I'll say mid 70s. I'm just going to be so politically safe with this. But there are like, I'll see what happens to some, like the really bad people are really bad. Harvey Weinstein's.
Yeah.
But the Senator Al Franken stuff.
I know. Yeah.
Been there, done all of that. And even a few times where someone may have, Andrew has a joke about this. Actually, I'm going to quote my son's joke. This is an escape hatch for me, by the way.
Joke thief. Where
he says, depending on your definition consent, I've never had it. Everybody has always been, well, I guess so. If it's full-throated, maybe full-throated is the wrong word.
That's a little.
If it's wholehearted, absolutely, you're the one I want to be with is what's required. That's a steep hill to climb. But anyway, it's. But then you grow up and you mature, and at some point, hopefully before you're on the Today Show, you see see the opposite sex as equal and to be respected and to be learned from. And you see gay people and all of that as a part of nature that is all part of the beautiful. I mean, it's perfect that the rainbow is the symbol. By the way, I saw a really funny cartoon today that some of the southern states want to outlaw water fountains because they're creating rainbows, and children shouldn't see that.
Well, it's also become a virtue signaling.
Yes, of course.
Thing too.
What has rainbows?
The rainbow.
Yeah.
Let me ask something about that, because I got in a heated discussion with my air partner about that.
What a surprise!
I know, right? If somebody tries to show allyship, is it virtue signaling and doing it for themselves?
Don't know. Only if you know what's inside their brain and their intent.
The heart.
Yeah.
So virtue signaling, like Mother Teresa, virtue signaled all the time. She handed loaves of bread to the poor.
She liked the poor. Please,
Yeah, like
come
she
on.
cared about them.
Please.
So I think what
It's great.
I think
Just sacrilege.
well, what the term means is that it's a false flag. It's false that you don't really care. You're just using it to earn points. And that is someone saying that's someone's essentially calling you a liar. Okay. And sometimes they might be right. I don't know. Some people, politicians often, it's called a photo op for a reason.
Yeah.
That's virtue signaling every time.
I prefer grip and grin.
Grip and grin is a good one. Yeah. So
no, you're right, and I'm sure many people do just virtue signal.
I love
Budweiser.
Jack. So what did he say?
Yeah. Jack thinks that all displays are virtue signaling or rainbow economics, or what was the term he had. It was
that's
the whole go woke, go broke bullshit, all that stuff.
Oh, and there's some truth to that, by the way, in the sense. It's about money.
Well, well, you can tell who's virtue signaling, like Budweiser, who did their whole trans can thing for a day, trying to chase the trans dollar. And as soon as they figured out that redneck America wasn't going to have none of it, they pulled back faster than, I was going to say Nick Cannon, but Nick Cannon, but he never pulls back.
No.
So, I think, Target's almost guilty of this, just as hypocritical a move, but they've got the cover of, Target's had Pride displays in Pride Month for years.
And here we are in current events, but we'll make
I know.
it's a good story.
Yeah. But people take it upon themselves to be, culture warriors and videotape themselves thrashing displays at Target because they'll get 1,000 clicks, 10,000 clicks. Target has a transkini. I don't know if that's what they call it, but that's what I call it. It's got a little thicker pocket for tucking for a trans woman who hasn't had surgery.
Surgical people.
Yeah. Well, people started saying they were displaying.
Target wanted us to say Target more without them having to buy ads, and that's why they made the transkini. That would be virtue signaling, wouldn't it?
I made the same call about Budweiser because when they were kicking their flack, I'm like, I've watched Fox News say the word Budweiser 75,000 times in 2 weeks. I don't know what that costs, but it's a lot more than they lost at the beer counter. Now, but Target pulled back and pulled their displays because people were going in and thrashing them, and they were accosting their employees about promoting the devil and grooming and Satanism and all the bullshit that people put on that. And we started talking about this, about why people can't be accepting of others, right? And Bob, you said it was how people evolved through different bigotries over time.
No, I actually think it's built into our DNA. I actually think our tribal nature is millions of years in the making, and that even though we think we make progress each generation, the new people born are born with the same basic operating system that Fred and Wilma and Barney had, and yes, and so part of
I don't know, Fred. You're right. That's reptilian. That's the
just so you got the whole analogy. So part of humanity's challenge is always that we're all born with the basic imprint. In religion they call it original sin. We're all born with these fallibilities and these primitive instincts into something called civilization, which has evolved beyond them. But each new baby born, you're sort of starting not entirely from scratch, because society and the ecosystem and the culture and the internet, all of these tools have gotten crazy good, but you're still teaching a baby to actually think. And humans, this is something that John talks about with me all the time. Humans have one of the longest gestation periods and one of the longest child rearing periods. We have the longest by far of any mammal. I mean, there's all kinds of mammals that within 2 days, this horse is off running and eating grass, and a human baby can't even stop spitting up for 2 years and doesn't even know where to poop. And
my oldest one's at 34 and still doesn't know what the hell to do. So yeah.
So top of the food chain, baby.
So looking at it in a bigger picture, in the human condition, where I think we can grow, where the truth can get its pants on. So I have this saying now.
I love that logo, by the way. Yeah, that's a great moniker.
Well, what we could realize if we had education is we could teach ourselves that everyone new coming up deserves unconditional love and understanding for their prejudices, their anger, all of the things that are genetically part of the human problem. And we know enough science now to identify a lot of it, and that we need to come up with plans to make people more prosperous emotionally, not just financially. See, and there's a conflict of interest because factories need dumb people to go in and do the dumb work. But we're, as a species, watch this over the next several hundred years. Check back with me. As a species, we're evolving so that we are coming to that age where no one will actually have to do physical. Robots will do everything. The human brain will be freed to use its creativity and thoughts in interesting ways. And
Sager and Evans are here.
In the year 25.
Or we'll kill each other and blow ourselves up. I know that's the other possibility. But the greater possibility, I think, the human good is that we the adults, the ones who should be giving unconditional love, who are ranting at each other over political divisiveness, if we go, oh yeah, my friend's he's a kind of a he's a little wacko. He believes these conspiracy theories, and you sit with him and you go, I'm curious about all those. Why do you like believing in them? How much do you know if they're true? What kind of facts? I don't know. I'm just sitting here talking to you. And if you have that kind of conversation one-on-one with someone, most people are pretty reasonable up to a point.
Good point.
Yeah. But anyway, and yet look at all the progress we've made. Same-sex marriage.
We were making progress up until about 6-7 years ago.
2 steps forward.
So a graph up always goes like this.
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
We put the car in neutral lately for as progress goes, I think, if not reverse.
But what you call dumb and I call just not educated yet, is
well, I wouldn't call it uneducated because, you talk about how we have this biological, I should say, need to survive, fear of what will eat us, what can we eat, yada, yada. Yeah. But, you put a black baby and a white baby in a crib together, they don't grow up hating each other because of the color of their skin. That's taught to them.
And,
so it's not lack of education. It's not lack of education. By the way, it's miseducation.
They grow up loving each other because they're too young to watch cable news. Okay, that's the end of that.
Yeah, no, seriously. Well, let me finish the thought because we wanted to finish your thought first. A generation, multiple generations, 100 years ago, we were told that the African American was inferior and it was going to be a detriment of our society. Couldn't be equal. We learned that wasn't true. Okay, then we learned immigration.
But we were told that because we were white. African American people.
Let me get to my point. Yeah. Then we were told because we were white Americans that people from other countries were the problem, and we're still being told that today. But that argument doesn't hold water either. Nobody's people aren't swimming across the Rio Grande to take coding jobs at Amazon. That ain't happening. Okay. Yeah. But the latest enemy is LGBTQ. Yeah. That's this month's flavor of the people you should be afraid. And it's being framed as
Baskin Robbins. There are only 28 flavors, and they do keep rotating, and that one's rotating.
I know.
A number of presidential elections. Yeah.
I got down this rabbit hole, and I apologize. It's always funner. It's always funner when we're funny. But Ed's question about the alphabet wars guy, right? And how do people get to that? Because they've been told that some of these people are coming after your kids. They've been told that drag queens are groomers and that they're. You want to stop groomers, eliminate the Catholic fucking church. Take wrestling coaches off the board. I know, but you know it takes a drag
to be on broadcast radio.
I don't say that there. I say that here. You know how long it takes a drag queen to untuck her shit to go after your kid? It's like an hour and a half. It ain't drag queens.
Funny. Did you do that on the air? That is funny.
Yeah, that I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that is funny. All right.
Plus, is your kid covered in glitter? No, you're fine.
Your secret weapon is funny.
We kind of started this whole discussion prior to Ed's comment about being fear-based. Don't you think?
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
No. Sorry. And don't you think this digital echo chamber, digital lifestyle we live in exacerbates it to no end?
Echoes.
Yeah. Well, because there used to be 3 major networks. There used to be a couple of newspapers, and they all behaved politely with each other. You know, the major network said, "Hey, you know this Jack Kennedy? He's banging Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, we don't want to put that on the evening news. Children are watching." And
Right.
and there would
Those
be
were
Very true,
the
very true.
days, my friend. I thought they never end.
But the reason for that was that it was best for business. And now what's best for business is it's a dog-eat-dog world with an infinite number of channels. And the only way to cut through the clutter is to go for fear, is to go for drama, and is to actually bend the facts or omit certain facts to herd an audience. And, you know, Roger Ailes, the first real smart person to recognize this, when he took, what was it, CNBC? No, it was an NBC News thing, and they switched it to Fox. And he said, "We're going to be full balls to the wall conservative, and our slogan will be fair and balanced."
Yeah.
And you know that basically led the way. And by the way, if he didn't do it, someone else would have done it, because it's caused by the number of channels all competing in a business world for advertising dollars.
So it's looking for their niche, right?
Well, they're looking to make a living. I mean, this is, we're tribal, and we're looking to build a little campfire and have some people around it and throw spears at anyone who threatens us. And you know,
it's even a little more insidious than that, because the algorithms that send us what we see, because my feed is different than Bob's feed is different than Ed's feed.
Absolutely.
Right. And so people get into their feed. Everybody in my feed says that gays are groomers.
Right.
And drag queens are groomers. So I'm in the majority, because everybody I see feels that way. Because you see the same 130 B-bags and not the 100 million people in them that are talking these days. You see the same little circle of people who think like you do, and you're deluded into thinking you're part of the majority.
They're chumming the waters.
Yeah.
A lighthearted sidebar. There's 5 of us here. Raise your hand if you've been groomed. I was groomed. I don't know what the definition of the word is. But
my barber was closed, and the dog groomer next door was open, and I needed a haircut. So
that's groomed. Okay. Someone once made a pass at me that I didn't know was gay, and that's not grooming. That was just,
was it somebody from an organization that you felt you could trust?
I never trusted the Boy Scouts.
That's the part.
Well, that's the thing, Ed. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
because people, they say these people always tend to. Why is it always? I don't mean to be the Catholic Church. I do apologize, Father, forgive me.
Too late.
But people who groom, people who are predators,
teachers,
preachers, Boy Scout leaders, whatever it might be, they hide in places where safety is a given.
Okay, but it's
part of their camouflage.
Let me interject. You're talking about them like it's terrorism. And as awful as it is, most of society behaves itself. And these are aberrations. These are not the norm. What happens in modern media is that this is portrayed as if it is the norm. And therefore, it becomes impossible not to pay attention to it, or you're saying you're for it. So
no, I hear you. But I would argue that terrorism is also the minuscule number outlier.
It
right?
is. Terrorism,
terrorisms don't portray real Muslim culture any more than a pedophile priest portrays the priesthood.
Trump loves nothing more than hanging out with some rich Muslim sheiks and doing golf course deals with them.
You bet your bottom drachma he does. Yeah.
However, don't ever call him stupid, because corralling that fear, that tribal fear, at the right time, and saying we're not letting any in until we find out what the heck's going on, which is, I love those kind of statements. It's totally bland. The statement has no facts in it, with no perspective whatsoever. It's all tribal fear-based. And so I'm coming back to the same point. The problem humanity has is not any of these problems. It's our education. Our education hasn't grown up to deal with the current challenges that we have by complete freedom of speech, complete freedom of communication. We didn't have it before. We had 3 networks. We had a few newspapers. Everybody, it was the Mad Men time. We had advertising, which was spin and, making up stories about products, but it was all relatively harmless compared to what can be done now by just an angry mob getting out of control. It's like a forest fire. We create all this tinder.
Yeah.
So to me, the entire answer isn't arguing. It's absolutely not arguing about these issues. It's actually talking about how we can learn more and educate ourselves to minimize any of this going on.
You mean that 95% of doctors that smoke Camels don't do it because it makes them healthy?
Those are such good times. Good times.
I'd rather fight than switch.
LSMFT.
Yeah. Anyway, great discussion, guys. It's been a pleasure. This is
LSMFT. Is that the new acronym? Is that the new alphabet thing? Because I can't keep up.
Yeah.
LSMFT. Happy Pride Month, LSMFT.
Dave, is this the third episode of Truth Gets Its Pants On if we started calling that when Kathy Faulkner was on, or is this the second? You're the keeper.
It's the third.
It's the third.
It's the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're working on the jingle more. We're going to make a video. We're going to use AI, by the way. It turns out that the one that we did, and actually this was done by David and very well done on a, not even a shoestring potato.
It was a quickie. Very quickie.
Amen.
But here's the jingle.
They say that a lie can't go halfway around the world before.
The truth gets its pants on.
The Bob and Zip Show with Ed Kelly.
We'll be back next week, and I think we're going to have Drew Lane on.
That's an AI jingle. Hold on. That's an AI jingle
From Detroit.
No,
not yet.
Oh,
Not
good.
yet.
I was going to say, first off, tax assistants, middle managers, jingle singers.
That's all. And the next time we don't have a guest, let's really dig deep into that, because I'm just so fascinated. I got an email from Jerry and Lois Photography, and he, his craft is taking pictures, doing multiple layers, going into Photoshop, getting the lighting right, sometimes working for days on a particular photograph. And there was a tool that came out that would get rid of glare and fix eyeballs and do all this stuff. And he said, this would have taken me hours and hours. And he said, I learned how to use the tool and fixed it in 2 minutes. And so, yes, this is all part of the same problem. We're going to have so much ability, and we're still going to have these lizard brains that can literally be controlled by algorithms.
Can I eat this? Yeah.
Yeah. Will it eat? Can I have sex with it? Will my friends disapprove, or will they be jealous? So anyway, it's fascinating. We'll keep going with this theme next week. Drew Lane. Drew replaced me at WAAF in Boston and worked with Zip. They moved to Phoenix. They moved to Detroit. He is one of the greatest radio announcers of all time. He's also got some stories.
Hey, Bob, were you going to mention any other upcoming guests?
I could mention a couple. So this is David's thing. Dave is like, I need to put all of these tags in so people will search and find you. Just write sex.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Rainbow.
Have you seen?
Yeah, I don't. Well, also coming up, Dudley Taft, who's a direct descendant of
Detroit.
President Howard Taft.
William Howard Taft, yeah.
Boy, his stories are something. He is traveling the world now playing the blues, and he used to play in Spike and the Impalers. There are about 6 other guests I'm working on, and we'll try to. And when we don't have a guest, we won't have a guest, but a different kind of discussion.
Okay.
Let us know what you think of it. Long form, hardly at all topical, and the spike's on, and he just cannot. It's like
sorry,
diarrhea.
I didn't bring it up.
No, I always bring it
like
up and then blame you.
diarrhea.
The whole point. Yeah.
One more thing.
Sorry.
One more thing.
I didn't hurt your
We're
feelings.
now on YouTube Music.
What does that mean?
Means you can find our podcast, your podcast, on YouTube Music.
And Ed has to play harmonica in every episode, or
That's
we can't call the music thing.
One of the other things Dave has kept telling me is that YouTube is the preferred platform for what we're doing. And I'll tell you the numbers, because if you've listened this long, your family. Between 2 different Facebook streams, YouTube, which we haven't really developed. We've only been doing it for a little while. Spotify, Apple. Are we on Amazon too?
Yes.
Google. We're on all of them.
All of them.
And I scour, to see how many people actually listen to the show. And when you add all of them up, it could be between 3,000 or 4,000 people per episode. So it's not a small group, and we really appreciate those of you who. Let me put it this way: with so many entertainment choices,
we know you have so many.
Yeah, the fact that you're hanging out with us means a lot. And some of you are probably old friends, and some of you are probably just too lazy to get up and change the channel. I don't know.
And for you Patreon people, remember, I can answer your phone for you if you want a stranger to do it.
Ed will do a phone answering message for you. He's been doing it for years for people. It's very nice. So you can email us anytime, show@bobandzip.com. Let us know what you think of this new. It's not really new. It's just, I just don't want them to. Here's the thing. When it comes out on Facebook and 3 days later, we're talking about something that's already out of the news, it feels like it doesn't have any staying power.
A little stale. Yeah.
And when we do a great interview with someone that's really smart, so we're all learning and everyone else learns, then it feels like that'll last a long time. So
I wonder where you got that idea.
Howard Stern, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the best interviewer on the planet.
He was terrible, that son of a bitch.
Get closer to the microphone. Howard's always
he called
eating
himself a disc jockey. I don't think so. I was a DJ. I was an on-air personality. He was a piece of.
It's a little. It's Howard, but it's got a little bit of.
No, that's Don Imus.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing the Iman. Howard's down here.
Both those guys are influencers. I have to say, Howard, just opened up the door for so many radio people to actually not be shock jock, but be your true self.
One word, Bob. Lesbians.
Lesbians, yes.
That's Pride Month. I had to throw that in.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. One more time with the jingle and out. Everybody have a great day.